Hello, friends, fellow gamers. Welcome to our March Patron chat. As they join here today, I want to talk about, just briefly until we get some people in here, an experience with Pathfinder Society yesterday. First time I'd gone in a few months, and I had a sudden realization. I want to talk about. Oh, that's me. Briefly until we get some people in here. Shush. All right, there we go. So many things to juggle when doing the technology. But I was looking around it and I just saw the game in a different way. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Andrew.
Congrats again. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank
How
you.
are things?
Oh, things are doing fine. Just peachy keen where I am. It's just
That's important. That's good. I was just about to say I had a revelation
a revelation, you say?
about
It wasn't the Matrix, was it?
this time. No, this was different, and it was at Pathfinder Society, and I kind of saw it for the first time, which I don't think I made the connection, or maybe I made it and forgot it. This is a board game. This is, you got your pieces and you move around and you kill things on the board. It hadn't, like Monopoly, or I don't think you kill things Monopoly, but Risk or something like that. It hadn't made that connection ever to me. How much, at least that style of playing, at least what I was there at, just reminded me of like,
a board game.
It didn't equate to like role-playing game in my mind, because so much of it was focused on move your piece. How many squares can I go here? All right, I move 6. 1, 2, 3. I don't know why I hadn't thought of that for
There was a
while or ever.
There's a weird board game that my parents got for me when I was like 8, especially considering how hard the game was. It's called Key to the Kingdom.
Okay.
You ever heard of that game?
I don't think so.
It is about the closest thing you can get to truly a board game version of like Pathfinder Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, everybody plays a different adventurer, and you travel all around these maps, and you go through dungeons, and you fight monsters, and you have to go through these traps and through obstacles and stuff.
Hello.
What's his name?
Derailed?
Yeah, completely derailed.
You're talking about Key to the Kingdom.
Key to the Kingdom, yeah.
Traps and
stuff. It's a real neat game in the sense that the game board actually folds out and in as you travel to different worlds. And there's a big, thick book, well, thick for a board game, with all the rules, you know, not unlike an RPG, pen and paper RPG. And, yeah.
If my parents got me a board game called Key to the Kingdom, it would be about going around preaching and doing good deeds in order to attain eternal life.
And I remember me and my friends would play that game for hours. Literal hours, because it would take hours to play just one game of it.
By the sound of it, you were talking about board games of some kind.
I was just about to fill you in, talking about how I had the idea that it was very strange that playing Pathfinder, at least Pathfinder Society, you felt like playing a board game with just doing the rules and moving your pieces and taking your steps, and I activate this ability for this thing, and it hadn't hit me like that before.
One board game which is quite fun, but I don't really get to play that often with my friend, is Game of Thrones. There is a board game for it. There are a bunch of rules, but once you learn the rules, set it up like 20 to 30 minutes, it's quite fun. It lasts for hours.
I wouldn't want to play that, because in the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die.
Well, it's a fun game. I used to play it a lot with my friends during summer, and the game would last like 3 hours before we had to actually draw it off because both of us were tied, and then we continued it the next day.
Oh, it's one of those perpetual games, kind of
Yeah,
like Monopoly.
it's one of those games that it takes a long time to get to one point, but it is entertaining to watch up to that point as a player to see what your ally or enemy is doing. Especially if you're familiar with the book series.
I was not, and I played it, and I was missing a lot of context that the other players who knew Game of Thrones knew all about. And so they kept telling me I was doing lore wrong, and Baratheon wouldn't make that decision. He would go here, and I was very confused. It's fun. It's got a lot of complexity to it. I liked this turn. I like the board games that have bidding and turns. And so you can go first if you commit a lot of resources. You can get the sword or the raven or whatever it was in Game of Thrones. If you're willing to, trade off. This turn I really want to go first. This turn I'm not gonna. It's not worth it. I think Game of Thrones has that, and I like that mechanic definitely. Well, let's see. What do you guys think about? These are both Type 1 players. Oh, my voice.
Oh, it's a fun campaign so far. I can't wait to get my character being back to a tango again.
You think he'll survive?
Well, I will think my character will survive.
Chris's character didn't. Both of your characters have died.
Both of our characters have died.
Well, I'm level 9 now, so I can cast the Resurrection spell. So that's quite good.
Right.
So well, yourself.
Yeah. When and if Jack comes back, he's going to get rebuilt. Literally and metaphorically.
He will be
metaphorically, literally.
He will be the next RoboCop in the world.
Yeah. Let's go with RoboCop. Let's make a RoboCop reference. I'd buy that for $1.
Now, I'll say again, I don't know if I said it clearly, but you just kind of took the initiative on all this stuff. Didn't run anything by me. Didn't ask me about any of it. And I think that's great because it's really most important to you for this stuff. So by all means,
just do crazy dumb stuff.
Yeah.
I generally don't do crazy stuff in my campaign that I partake in, but playing as a goblin for once is quite nice.
Oh, I don't know if it's worked out for you so far.
Well, it's not working out for me so far, but I enjoy some of the features of being a goblin bird.
Yeah, it is a kind of an interesting character that you've ended up with, just out of random happenstance, and that's something I do like about this campaign is that a lot of our characters have ended up with kind of these random builds out of happenstance. They get these weird stuff like, I don't think Lance started off this game knowing he'd be wearing an angel.
That's Jared.
That's literally armor. Yeah.
That was Jared's character. Yeah.
Jared, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jared. I confused you with Lance, but yeah.
Definitely like including custom things. If there's a standard way to play, which is just following the adventure paths and things specifically in the books, that's never been my mainstay, and I think you'll think back and talk about not how well you stayed within the rules, but is this neat, interesting thing that isn't normally there. I try and include those.
I don't see it so much as staying within the rules, but staying within the spirit of the rules. We at least need to do that. It's like
we are following.
If you're an engineer, you can expect physics to function the same way when you're designing a bridge.
We are following most of the rules, but we are following the spirit of the rules in a certain extent.
I will say have a criticism, and it's actually not of the game or your DMing or any of the other players. It's of myself,
Oh,
and that
good. We have lots of those too. So
and that is that when I built and designed Jack, I just was overambitious in his specialization and stuff, and also I don't think I properly equipped him. I think this is a slight criticism, but after the last dungeon we went through, the Scum Cave, the fact that we were like, okay, we have an indiscriminate amount of treasure, and think of what we'd buy with that, and not actually running with you through that. I think I under-equipped Jack, given what we had.
right.
I don't know, but I feel maybe if I had been more intelligent with how to put them together, he wouldn't have died so many times.
Once.
Well, he died. Yeah, he died once, but he was also bleeding out at least 2 other times.
And there's certain, and I don't know if I have a clear resource for it, more of just a feeling from experience of whereabouts a character should be equipped, not just like money-wise, but what should they have.
Power-wise.
Yeah, it should consist of a blanket number of things that that are not often thought of when you think of my cool bionic commando arm. You don't think of amulet of natural armor +2, got to upgrade my cloak of resistance.
Yep.
Which is punishing when creativity and fun stuff comes into face with the Pathfinder numbers and specific content.
Yeah.
Fidelity to I'm not going to lower the monster because he forgot his amulet of natural armor kind of.
Right, I understand.
This is not a system problem, but one thing I don't like about Pathfinder, it is very rules heavy. But within those rules, you can have fun as a GM to say what rules can be modified. If you look at all of the rules in Pathfinder compared to 5e.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to end up, and I would say it is a system problem, and it's okay that it is. In that, alongside the revelation of board game, tabletop mechanics, that also came with the experience of this should really be, or would be, so much more fluid and fun, and could refocus in on in adding more role play to the Pathfinder, the society experience, would be making it a video game, like having the numbers programmed in, because there's so many. There's enough now that I could say that your programming could probably do a good number on it. And yeah, graphics are tough, certainly, to have that, but you click on your bar, here's my move here, here's my move here. Because there's so much, we sat there last night in the game I was playing, at least 90% of it was combat, and at least 50% of that combat was tedious and arduous and slow, and having to look up this or check this. If it just had it all already programmed into something, because there's so many things that get looked up.
If there was like an app for like a smartphone or tablet.
To input, all right, DM has this little screen up, and all right, darkness now, so he's got concealment. Okay, you failed the fort save, so this, just having those.
There's that. What's that program that you've used a couple times? Hero.
Hero Lab.
Hero Lab. Thank you. If there was a program like Hero Lab, but it also allowed you to do all the dice rolls and stuff. It didn't just build the character sheet. It created those hotkeys and macros.
Right. Seems to me would expedite so much, because there's gotten to be so many rules that it really bogs down the game. It's again like someone sitting there with the manual. It's exactly that. What does the rule say when I roll 2 6s and land on Park Place? Good happening.
Character creation is, especially at the higher levels, it definitely take longer. In case of my character does die, I made a backup character, and it took me like 45 minutes to get the character up to level 10.
Yeah, speaking of more rules, Ultimate Intrigue's almost out. Have you seen any of the leaks?
I've had a copy. I did a review of that. Or no, was that
Ultimate.
is that the one with the Vigilante? Or is that already out?
That's not been out yet. They've had the play test for it, but the official version is going to come out the 16th.
I don't know any new things about it.
It's going to have all sorts of new archetypes and stuff. There's a vigilante archetype that lets you play as Sailor Moon.
Yeah, I did do a review of that, and
Yeah.
it seemed like a cool concept for like a one-on-one game or a group who is all vigilante people, intrigue people, as opposed to.
One of my
It's also got a bunch of archetypes for other classes in the same sense that it's adding vigilante abilities to those classes, the way certain archetypes have added class abilities from one class to another in the past.
Oh, good. They thought of that.
This is a bit of a joke, but my Friday group, we were joking about Sailor Moon, and I brought up a reference. Oh, we could make a mini campaign of all being Sailor Scouts, and I made Sailor Moon references. It was quite hilarious because I grew up watching Sailor Moon as a kid, and would be cartoons and anime during the early 90s.
So I think that in this post-Madoka era of magical girls, you can't really get away with that. Yeah, the genre has just been turned so on its head that you can't really go back to that innocent time of, oh, it's just a girl and she turns into a magic girl and beats the enemy in one hit. Stupid. Can't go home again. The genre is too deconstructed at this point. But yeah, the idea of like an all vigilante group based on like, superheroes or Power Rangers, something like that. That'd be crazy.
One book series which I did finish recently, listening to it on Audible.ca, was the saga of a villainy, and it just follows the path of a villain with his gang gaining power in his path to be a villain, and came across a group of anti-heroes, vigilantes. It's quite an interesting book series.
Yeah.
That book series have heroes, villains, and superheroes in it.
Yeah, the question is it a deconstruction or does it play it straight?
It is both. The author went along in the humor area of both of those areas.
Let me hop in and welcome Greg. I haven't said you just yet, sir. How you doing today?
Hey, Greg.
Good. My wife just got home, so we have it set so that I'll be able to massage her feet stage left while I hang out with you goofballs stage right.
That's for the compromise. I appreciate it.
No, she's a player too. She just doesn't digest this stuff as much because she's a player. As a DM, trying to take it in.
Today when I was at work, I had a lot of downtime today doing prep work. I was just thinking of characters, ideas, or at least concept. What have been the oddest concept that you have thought of? Being a fan of the Star Wars trilogy book and game, one of the characters which I did like was AK-47. He was a assassination droid, and I thought, oh, in a campaign it would be interesting to play as a assassin robot.
Correction, assassin droid.
Droid.
Addendum, assassin protocols are very important and should not be looked down upon. Meatbag.
Well, AK-47, some of his dialogue is quite hilarious, especially calling other humanoid meatbags.
I don't know if it's definitely not appropriate to share all the character concepts that I've ever had. Some of them.
Well, tell which one you can actually get away with on the channel.
Dare you enter his magical realm?
Wait. I'm sorry, Andrew, that I am getting into your safe zone, or safe space, whatever social justice warriors want to call it these days.
It's just a bit broad of a thing to. Strange is certainly subjective. I have many people play characters that I would find utterly strange, but they find that they have to play them always. That's their go-to kind of character. Like playing something strange, they find normal. Like to me, I want to be Undead Drow who uses little children as weapons and swings them. Like that's the awesomest thing ever. To me, that's not. I don't know what strange exactly I could say. Be a little more specifics. That would help me.
I guess what have been one concept of a character that you wanted to play as?
Just any. It doesn't have to be strange.
Yeah, just any, such as you want to play as a construct Robocop or something.
I don't. It's hard to say at the moment. I think.
Chris, do you have a concept character that you would wanted to play but never really had the chance to, or did?
There's a prestige class in Pathfinder that I keep going. You know, what if you do a character with this? It's called the Pain Taster, and it's basically a sadomasochist who uses a whip and gets power from torturing themselves. It's very. I cannot think of a campaign where it would be comfortable to play that character with other players. But it's an interesting concept in terms of its ability set and in terms of the actual thought process that such a character goes through. What kind of being makes these physical sacrifices of itself for power and enjoys doing so.
I guess if you were going to play that character, it would be a one-on-one campaign. If it
with your wife.
I don't. Yeah, with my wife.
You're right about interesting concepts that would make for maybe like a great short story or a novel. Definitely, there's not an easy translation from that to a tabletop character because you're playing with other people. And don't have the freedom to, or they will take issue with.
Probably you could get away with it with playing that character within a one shot with a group of friends that could get the humor, maybe. Greg, have you ever had a character concept that you wanted to play as?
Yeah, I've always had the idea of playing like a were-rat rogue in a city setting where I'm a member of this sort of underground CSI group that's responsible for finding out like the real murders, like where essentially we do what Batman does in the old campy thing where, the cops can't do anything and they always turn to Batman. They always turn to us. And so the wizard uses some divination magic, and I'm the one who has to scamper through the tunnels and stuff and actually dig up the real junk on people, right? Just an idea.
Why hasn't it been realized so far? You could probably pitch that to a few people, get them to play. That sounds fun.
Oh, yeah, it wouldn't be hard.
If I had to do a one-on-one campaign that I would be partaking in, I would want to play as a investigator. Andrew, you played Fallout 4, so just think of the character Nick Valentine, but playing as a human investigator. That would have been a interesting one-on-one campaign right there.
I do have some thoughts on definitely one-on-one campaigns could be a lot of fun with that. I'm finding that they're less and less so fun for both parties because there's not enough dynamic of other. It's like playing Monopoly with two players. Again, to kind of go back to that a little bit, it's not quite as fun as playing with a group. It ends up, you can tell neater stories and more focused characters. One's a spotlight, but it needs to be a really, really, to me, specific kind of thing that you do together. That it's kind of, me and my good friend, we really focus on the narrative, and we're writing a story about it after. And kind of, you'd think it would be more fun than it is, and I think it's because they just don't have other people. Experience in one-on-one games? No?
I've never actually done a one-on-one game, so the ball's not in my court on this one.
I only have partaken in group campaigns so far, so I have no experience there.
Well, then, I'd say, and my experience in them has been, it's another one of those conflicts of, I've got a cool character idea. Does it play well without anyone else involved, or with just the DM playing multiple people? A bit well in this campaign. There's way more considerations than just cool idea.
If I could get away with it, I always actually wanted to play as a drow in a campaign, but I guess that is a bit of an old cliche right there.
I don't know. If you haven't done it, it's not a cliche.
Well, it's the concept is probably cliche. People, at least the idea of it, especially with the character Dresden, people want to play a character like him, so it becomes the overused idea.
It's a very deviant art thing, I'm gonna play an elf, but they're a dark elf and they're all edgy.
To some, that's enough to be the selling point of getting involved in the game. I find it very interesting that their whole character is just some cosmetic, or to be able to be described as a certain thing. I'm playing this. I'm playing X, and X is X. It has no real big impact on the game other than a great excitement for them. I don't insights onto that, why that is enough to be able to say I'm a dark elf, but nothing more than that, or I'm a whatever. Where's the satisfaction coming from?
Maybe because the character needs.
Think heavy metal. I mean the music.
The genre or the movie?
The music.
What type of heavy metal? There are
Dude,
genres in heavy metal.
Don't get dragged down in the weeds.
Don't get dragged down. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Just make something. Just looks cool.
It's a celebration.
Style over substance.
Well, all of a sudden, I've introduced an artistic concept that's getting beaten to death for no reason I can think of. So let's pick a different metaphor. If you're a young male and you want to separate yourself from the world, and you do, are you more likely to want to play Legolas or a goth version of Legolas that your girlfriend might be hot over? Do the math.
I see where you're going with this.
I'm not saying in every case. I'm saying guys want to be cool. Nobody ever watched Pumping Iron and came out of it saying, I want to be the little chiropractor. They don't even remember him. Great athlete. They want to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, don't forget I'm dating myself here.
I was following you for most of it, about 40%. I think I'm pretty on board.
At the end, then the kid goes overboard and tries a little too hard. And then when they are older and they look back, they say, wow, was I really that edgy? Did I really grow my hair out like that? I look like a grease ball. And this is coming from my own personal experience.
Mm.
You know, you get into your mind something you think is cool, and then you go with it. I don't think it's necessarily that it is cool, it's what you think is cool.
One day during this year, when I was bored, I was looking back at some of my school year books, and I was looking at older pictures of myself and saw, okay, when I was at blank age, when I was a kid, I was into punk music and the clothing style, and then saw my hair. Really, I thought having long, dark hair like that and behaving like that was cool, and I'm sort of shocked that I thought like that when I was that age. So it just went those age difference looking back at a younger version of yourself, if that makes sense.
So I got this question from along this time from a 15-year-old who asked, should I play with people my own age or people who are older than me? The general rule, of course, there's going to be exceptions. Pairing very experienced or not very experienced and pairing ages, what would you tell that 15-year-old to do?
Me, I would generally say it's a good idea to play with people around your age, but as an adult, I generally find having friends who are a bit older than you and playing with them is a good idea to help get the person to be a bit more mature, if that makes sense, when it comes to playing and for personal goals as well.
Greg's got some playing with his children here and his children's children. We found there's been well, it's a family thing too, so that's different.
The thing is, 15-year-olds are more likely to want a combat-based game, and now that they're older and they're in the 25 range, it's shifted more to role-playing and less numbers. But having come from a music background and a chess background, the gridded Living Greyhawk system really suited them well, and they became very proficient at that version of playing Dungeons & Dragons. Worked really well. They played with the people that were older than them almost always, because that was who was available. In that system, it's very difficult to stay on track with 15-year-olds because you have a limited game time to play and a certain amount of material to get through. In terms of home campaigns, it's usually an older DM who knows the game well, DMing for a bunch of kids, some of whom are always murder hobos. You cannot, no matter how you try, get them into the role playing. They think this is like a video game.
Or a board game.
Yeah, well, they don't play board games. They just want to kill stuff. Right? They're pissed that they can't have a phaser.
With your experience there, and have you done those home games? I've done the mentoring game. I have to echo what you said of running games for students at schools. There is a definite consistent mindset. I had one experience with one boy who was intent for skinwalkers. Are there any skinwalkers? I want to play a skinwalker. this introductory base 5th edition D&D game. Then you had his friend who was trying to role play and trying to try everything, but also kept telling him, no, you don't do. They don't have skinwalkers. I want to play a skinwalker, and it was and a couple of guys who just sat there, just waited until they could roll, and I did 8 damage, free of context or big number excitement. Which is not too far off from adult games, I guess I can say, but I have to contrast that, and bizarrely, I don't have much experience with middle and high school. I'm more elementary, but I ran a game for 5th graders, and there were 2 girls in the group and 2 boys. And I have to say there were moments in that campaign, which was Pathfinder, so complicated mechanics and numbers, moments in that game, mostly from the girls, that I would say were on par with some of the pretty good moments that I've had with adults as far as good interactions, role-play storytelling, and so forth. I don't know if they lose it in middle school, but I guess they do. They're awesome, and then they're just nope, can't be awesome for a while. And then they go back. I don't know beyond 5th grade really.
My theory is, I guess, people mindset change over time, and then it's just the social group that they are part of, what type of pressure they have. So probably those girls, assuming they have like-minded individuals at their social group, they will probably stick to playing like that fashion, or they will lose interest in D&D altogether. It's just what pressure they are under in their social group, if that makes sense.
And that's reasonable if you group with certain people who don't do those things anymore or who talk about something, then they'll definitely rub off on you. Just have this is a strange sensation that breaks the stereotype, because one of the students is kind of the type that you would picture being the homecoming queen in her personality and her disposition and all these things. She was the most fired up about tabletop gaming than any of them, than many other people I've seen. It was a wonderful thing to have experienced. I don't know if she'll stay with it. Hopefully. We'll see.
I guess it's a question to you, Andrew, but I was thinking, what type of person have to get into the mindset just to play D&D or tabletop games in general and just play for the numbers and just cheer, oh, I get a natural 20, so I can do 1d6 times 2 damage plus the additional factors on top. I don't get people that can just play for the numbers alone.
But I do so much more after last night that absolutely they can do that, and their style is fine because the game is so well designed for that. After playing Pathfinder and seeing and kind of having that experience, absolutely I might even be doing Pathfinder wrong when I go to Pathfinder Society with the expectation of role playing the character and storytelling. That's like showing up at Monopoly and asking for role playing and storytelling to happen in that context. It's not the right thing. Like, why? Don't get mad that they play Monopoly and don't role play all the selling back and forth. It's not designed like that. It's not intended to be that way.
I guess it's a expectation that I gotten used to, or the group that I play with. They mix role playing and using the numbers to tell a story, something like what you would like to do on your channel. Numbers and the system is just background decoration, and you just tell the story using the numbers.
But I'm saying that I'm someone who just uses the numbers and focuses on that isn't wrong, like, at all. If I've been saying that, I'm wrong. Maybe it's my revelation, or just didn't state it clearly enough, or it's not fair or right to have that attitude when you just don't play with people who you don't like playing the same style. That's the only big problem. Is not system, is not not numbers or not numbers. It's who are you playing with? Just group with the right people.
Well, when you think about it, RPGs, pen and paper, D&D, Pathfinder, it's all emulating those classic fantasy going on an adventure type things. And you have the guys who are there, the protagonists, the guys who are thieves, and they're the guys who are what we would call a party face. They're doing all the talking and all the exposition and all the espionage, and then you got guys there in the background that are just hitting things. And sometimes you need both. I mean, wizard eventually runs out of spells. You got to have somebody who's good with hitting things with a stick, even if that's all he is a guy who hits things with a stick.
Yeah, I think we're mixing things just a little bit with the numbers focus. The mechanics focus is, I think you're describing the story focus, which I think is exactly right. I think many want to be the King Arthur that they heard about and emulate that and tell those stories. But some come to it not with that in mind, but coming from a video game perspective or a competitive board game perspective, that this is just like those. It's not like playing in the backyard with swords and imagination. This is just like those other things. And I'm hard-pressed to say that they are wrong.
Now, as long as they have the patience to sit through the cutscenes, I think that they aren't really causing a problem to the other players.
Yeah, that they get what they want, and it's enough to do the combat and they set through the role playing. They don't mind it. They can check their numbers again during that time.
Right.
I can see that working out, of course.
I guess my issue is more me as a person is I gotten used to playing with certain people with certain mindsets. So when it comes to playing with someone else with a different mindset, I guess the expression a clash of personalities collide. I guess something I have to work on in that area.
Definitely a challenging thing to. It's what the problem that most people have, broadly speaking, for a partner or wife or husband or whatever. Figuring that out, making that connection is very challenging. Seek it out. In a smaller way, they're still quite challenging. Even if you're just playing games together, it's your life that you're spending with them. They gotta matter. They gotta be a good experience, or you really shouldn't waste your minutes that way.
talk about Venus. I've been working on the taxonomy of the animals. My wife got very upset when she found out elves weren't mammals.
Well, then how do they breed with humans?
They don't. There's no humans on Venus. It's Venus.
Oh, okay. This is something I'm not privy to. This is
Oh, Venus, the planet Venus.
planet.
Yep.
Yes.
It's been veneriformed, for lack of a better way to phrase it, and in a million years it's inhabited by virtually every trope out of the core D&D 5 rule books, except for anything related to humans, because they just don't live there. So there's no half-elves, there's no half-orcs. I've had to fill the half-orc niche with a species I made up. I've shrunk the lifespan of virtually all the races, except for the low end. It's really lumpy in D&D, and I've kind of flattened it out a bit. And I've broadened out the varieties of dwarves and elves you can be. Right? But at any rate, what I didn't want was the game was originally designed for my grandchildren. I wanted to take humans out of the mix so that none of them would be at home plate. They'd all be off doing something new with their brains.
That's an interesting thought.
I was excited when I heard it. I didn't know that that was part of your reasoning behind that, though. I'm very interested in campaign choices for the purpose of expanding or growing some sort of aspect of your personality or improving critical thinking, like you might call it educational experience.
That's a veneer. I mean, it's no more important than the fact that I have some depression issues, and this keeps me occupied on something positive.
I've been, kind of looking and thinking about that, of how it's therapeutic. Is it? I've seen a few articles. Is it even a wrong or bad thing to consciously make choices to design and play the game or campaign in a therapeutic fashion?
I guess everything in theory can be considered. Everything can be considered therapy in its own way.
But I mean, intentionally designing it. Not it happens to be therapy, but we are doing this, either saying it clearly or not, because it's therapy. Because this boy at school has real issues socializing with others, so we're going to do tabletop gaming to help him learn how to relate to other people. This girl has trouble critical thinking. We're playing D&D to improve her spatial, all these things. Does that diminish the game? Is it unfair? Is it like take away from that experience? It's something just so interesting to me as an educator to incorporate those things.
Interesting.
So far, my adults who've play tested it, there have been 5 of them, 6 of them. I told them there's no humans and here's why, and they went, okay.
I would definitely really like to hear what, if any difference or noticeable changes come as a result of with the grandkids from building it this way. Like, are they? I don't know. It'd be hard to understand, but after playing in this campaign, do they better empathize with people from other countries? And they say, I really wish we'd help them. I don't know. Like, that would be so interesting.
There'll be no way to draw a straight line there. But maybe I overstated it when I implied that I moved it onto Venus to take humans out of the mix. A better way to put it is this. This super being I described early on is a pivotal part of this art I'm working on, and one outcome of the art is building a D&D world. Think of it as Einstein's general relativity predicted gravity waves, but they're just a side effect.
Huh.
Your source of inspiration, then the arts, and then
Yeah, because the art, for instance, on October 27 this year, will have very little D&D in it. It will be a rock show with drums. The D&D in it will be the fact that in the first act, I appear as an alien version of me, and all my gongs and synthesizers are covered in my maps, which are going to be my genuine D&D maps that we use in the campaign, all taped up over the drum set. I'm now certified in your circle of friends as the looniest.
That is interesting.
They're laughing at me now,
It
Connie.
is art.
I
That
am
is
not. I'm not laughing. I'm just
art.
impressed. Someone actually came up with that.
Well, my choice is, I mean, I don't want to over-dramatize, but when you're suicidally depressed, you'll do anything to stay alive.
I can understand that.
Hey, dude, I
Really
heard
harsh
what
on
you said
Melon.
today recently about you and your brother.
Mhm.
Hey, my hat goes off to you, sir. I'm talking to Andrew here, sorry.
Story? Oh, yes. Well, we both had cancer when we were younger and got over it. And it just kind of was a course shifter, but for me, not quite as,
He and his brother.
like, other than just being quite cynical and taking light of everything, a little more light of things. Me personally, not quite as much as him, who decided to go become a monk and leave the own world. Definitely, there can be really huge shifting impacts of, mental and physical health can change what you love and what you want to do really dramatically. That story you were saying?
Andrew, you have some feed back on your mic. It's a bit of a nuisance hearing the feedback on your end.
Is it all crackly?
Yes. It is quite interesting to see how a disability of some kind can actually affect a person. Me as a person, I have a stutter, and that did affect me as a kid and what profession I did choose to go into.
How are we stuttering still? Feedback?
It is better now. Anyway, my stutter is under control for the most part, so most days I do not stutter that much, but I do have some bad days. And when those things I have to deal with it, it's not going away.
There's another channel that I've recently come across called the Disabled DM, and his focus has been interviewing people and talking himself about gaming with physical and mental disabilities, and it's been really a really helpful thing to understand a different perspective and how and why. 'Cause I play with many people. This hobby attracts more than a few people who otherwise maybe this is their outlet for fantasy, for entertainment, whatever the reason, and to get their perspective, just like even small tips. Tell me ahead of time what I like to roll my initiative ahead of time. That helps me feel comfortable in the game, and any of these small sort of, we would call them accommodations in school, go a really long way. And it's not a lot of work to do to take someone who may have social anxiety and make their night fantastic. All you have to do is let me roll my dice on my left side. Like just simple, small things that I had no idea about that make a big difference. I've been benefiting from that.
What is the name of the channel again? I may have to look it up later.
It's a disabled DM.
Disabled DM.
I'm sure if you can find it in a search, I would think so.
Yeah, I found it. I just have to look at the video later.
It's a matter of just understanding. It's been hard for me, learning patience to. I played in one session with him, and his turns took a long time to describe what he wanted to do. But what he described was fantastic, and I really appreciated that. I adjusted my expectations of how swiftly does this have to go? How many pauses can there be? If I just lighten up and prepare and know that ahead of time, helps so much. Or not just that. I'm thinking about. I know these group really likes combat. I'm going to design the adventure. Just really considering your audience. And anything on anyone's mind specifically? Otherwise, I have a chat in about 30 minutes to prep for. Nothing waiting on you. I can go and do that.
I have nothing on my mind, unless if Christopher and Greg want to say something.
No, I actually, I'm kind of double dipping this week. I just wanted to chop in and say hi.
I made the European jet, or that timed, what I call that anyway.
Yep.
No, I think we've talked about most of the things I wanted to talk about, which was just to chat, see about Ultimate Intrigue. If anyone's looked at the leaks for that,
I guess I'll have to take a look at it.
and any thoughts? It comes out the 16th. But other than that, oh, you got that one-shot artist. What's it called? I'm drawing a blank on it.
The guy who made the maps for the one shot?
No. The actual. Hold on, let me look it up real fast. Let's see. Events. So Beautiful It Hurts.
Yes.
Coming up on Friday the 15th. What's that about specifically? I mean, does it involve actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf?
It's inspired from what I did on that, yeah.
Huh.
I don't know that it involves him, but it kind of just the adventure idea came out of prepping for that video and the idea of a tortured artist, basically.
A tortured artist.
As the antagonist, yes. But theoretically, where would the players be coming into that?
But they would be like for most of my one shots. Remember, like an adventuring group that's well known that gets asked to look into something.
Okay.
It wouldn't necessarily be connected to. It's just too much, like so much harder for one single session to set up a lot of the backstory for it when it's really about just the adventure experience.
Andrew, have you ever played BioShock?
Yeah, that's one of the inspirations.
One of my favorite NPCs in the first BioShock was, I can't remember the tortured artist in that game right now. Sanders or something? Quite interesting.
Everyone was a tortured artist in that game.
I mean, the one doctor that you had to kill at the beginning. I did like his personality, and then when you get to the entertainment district and saw the artist there, it was quite interesting to see how the designers went with that theme.
I did very, very enjoy those games. I didn't get the second one. Didn't spend too much time on that one. But
Bioshock 2 is quite good. It's been out for a while, but you get to play as a big daddy.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting to come from the perspective of the guardian of the little sisters or the Harsters by the choices you have. And then Bioshock Infinite is a hit or miss if you like it or not.
I thought it was incredible. Big hit.
Well, good night, guys. Thanks.
Yes.
And night.
Good night.
I'm off and well, I'll be back on Twitch in an hour. So I'm going to interview on publishing, which is if you're interested in that, I'll be there.
Is it going to be live?
We'll be.
Oh, then have to watch that.
Q&A session. Just come and ask questions.
All right. Have a nice day then.
Have a nice night, gentlemen.